Good morning, everybody. It is like 3:41 a.m. where I am at the moment. And I can't sleep. So I'm going to do you guys a video. Today we are going to make the small Claudia-sized dirt nap by Seemingly Wicked. These patterns are super quick, super cute. And the fabric I chose for in here is actually Rocky Horror Picture Show, just for something very different. And I finally got my eyelet punch for the 6mm, so we'll be adding an eyelet so that you can put it on your keys or whatever. So that's what we're making. We're just going to get straight into it. So I've cut out the pieces that I need, but I haven't done all the card slots because I'm going to show you how I do it. So I'm just going to take my template, which I have laminated. I don't think this is going to work if you're only going to have paper. You'll at least want to like stick it to some cardstock if you don't laminate your patterns. And then I'm just going to clip the pattern to the vinyl. It doesn't matter if you clip it to the right side or the wrong side because it is symmetrical. So whatever floats your boat. And then I'm going to take my hole punch and I'm going to punch all the holes on here. So instead of marking them out and having to come and then punch them, I'm just basically skipping the marking step. And it's not going to damage the pattern. So I have done this like 8 or 9 times already and the pattern's still good. So that's marked all the holes, but what it didn't do is mark the slits. So there's a couple of ways you can do that. The way I normally do it is I will get my rotary cutter and a ruler and just rotary cut across. But my mat's a little bit big to bring over here and I gave away my small one to my brother. So from the back, I'm going to draw the lines between the 2 points like this. And then you can just cut it with a small pair of scissors or even a craft knife. So what I could do, because I understand that certain people don't have a rotary cutter and a ruler, so I like to show you alternative ways to do it. So this is just a craft knife, which is, by the way, very similar to a rotary cutter, but I'm just not going to put 100% pressure. I'm just scoring it until I feel it kind of cut through, because I don't want to cut my table. And then I can just, now that it's got a scored line, I can just take the knife. Always have your hands behind your knife. But I'm just taking the knife and it will now sit in that groove and cut open that section. Because I've already scored it, so it's kind of got something to track along. So that cut it perfectly straight. There's no marks on it at all. And that's without a rotary cutter. If I was to do this with a rotary cutter, I actually got my husband to specifically go out and buy a 28mm rotary cutter, so the really small one, because it gets into the corners a lot tighter without damaging the little circle holes. So the reason that we punch the circle holes is, especially if you're doing one out of leather, is it will stop it tearing any further. It's kind of like a nice ending. And again, I'm just going to come in with my craft knife. I'm still being slow and deliberate. Because it's kind of got something to track along because we did that first bit of scoring. I wasn't trying to push all the way through because then I'd have cut marks all over my table. I'm also keeping my fingers out of the way as much as possible. Just one more reason why I get fingernails. I get fake nails for craft reasons, not just aesthetically pleasing reasons. Alright, so now we've got all the holes cut without a rotary cutter. You could also do it with scissors. It's just harder to get it super duper straight. Okay, we're not putting this away because we're going to need this all throughout this project. So I have put in a purple bag weight thread. You don't have to use thread that's this thick. I just like to. And then This is the last little bit of the pink or lilac waterproof canvas I had. They've discontinued this color, which is very unfortunate. And I am trying to source a pink somewhere else. I've managed to get a hot pink. It's on its way, but the soft pink's just not a thing. So I just cut off the fluffy edge. You could also use ribbon, but in Australia, it's very hard to get 2.5-inch wide ribbon. I have tried, I promise. So now I'm going to take some double-sided tape. Now this is a thin one. This is only 1/4 inch wide. And I'm just going to put it at the bottom edge of the card slots that we did. So it doesn't have to go the full way across. This is just like a tacking thing until we get to the sewing. And I'm also going to put one just under the hole at the top. And I'm also going to put one down here. So these are all my tack down pieces. You can use 1/2-inch wide double-sided tape, but it fits perfectly within there. And it's just a little bit more tricky, so I don't like to. So what we're going to do is I'm going to peel off the one that's at the bottom slot. I'm going to bring my bin closer so I actually throw things in it. And then I'm going to take my ribbon, or in my case waterproof canvas, and I'm just going to put that upside down, essentially, and stick it to the tape. So technically it's all upside down. Then I'm going to come in here and just under the line, I want to make sure I've got a good tail because I'm going to do this the proper way today. Instead of back stitching, there will be no back stitching. I know that's like a shocking thing for me to say, but here we go. So I'm just stitching across, and then I'm going to pull it out again, making sure I leave a tail so there's no back stitching. And then I'm going to take this one and I just rotate it in circles until it makes this little loop. So we've basically unpulled the first stitch. So I'm going to stick my snips inside that loop and pull it through. And that has taken the thread to the back side where I can now tie it off. So I'll do that again. So I'm just going to pull on this one and kind of, if you do it in a circle, it pulls it better and creates this little loop. And then I'm going to pull this loop and watch the tail come to the back. And now all I have to do is tie these in a double knot or triple knot or whatever you feel comfortable doing. One's not going to cut it though, guys. And then trim off your tails. Trim your tails is still a thing today. But no back stitching. All right, 2 double knots, trim it off. And you can even leave it a little bit longer and then come with your lighter and just singe those ends. And that what that does is melt it really well so it's not going anywhere. So then we're going to fold this down. That's our first card slot complete. So we're going to fold that down and really give it a good crease. And then we're going to stick this down to that bottom edge, that bottom piece of double-sided tape we did. Like that. So you push from here and you smooth it down so it's going to be flat. Oh, and that's not flat, that's crooked. There we go, centered. And then we're going to crease that. And then we're going to come back up and pull off the next piece of double-sided tape, like that. And then smooth it up, like that. And then we're just going to keep repeating this process. Now with this length, I'm hoping that I should be able to get, for these, I should be able to get 2 card slots per one length. I'm going to test that theory because I know where the halfway point is. I've put a big crease in halfway. So again, we're leaving a tail. We're going to circle it and then pull the loop through. Just pulling it may not get it up. That's why we circle. If it comes straight up without having to do that circle, awesome. But for those threads that are being a little bit more stubborn, and you can backstitch. Don't think that you can't just backstitch and skip this step. This just looks neater from the front. Because it's a fun, quick project, a little bit of tying won't kill anybody. Alright. So again, trim it off. I'm leaving mine a little bit longer so that I can singe them down. You'll notice I don't hold this just constantly on it. I don't want to burn it. I just want to melt it. Okay. Next, we're going to measure where we need to put our next amount of double-sided tape. So I'm going to cut a length, measure up from the bottom of the last card slot and pop that down. And then we're going to fold the next one down onto the double-sided tape. Like so. And then pick off this piece. You may also want to grab a card and check your card slots. I've actually made a few of these when I was scrap busting one weekend, so I've got that bit sorted. So flip it over. From the top, we're going to stitch under here. So this will be the last lot of tying I'll have to do. Make sure we've got some tails. Circle, pull the loop back, and then tie it off. If you can hear a light ticking in the video, it is the video. It's my heat press. I'm heating it up because I'm ironing some foam on for the next project. But it takes a little while to heat up, so that's why you can hear it. Pull it through, double knot. The reason I'm not doing a triple knot is because I'm also melting it. You'll also notice that I'm holding this vertical and coming and kind of burning it from the side. That's so that the actual flame isn't getting on the project. Because if I was holding it over, if I was hovering over like this, it's more likely to melt fabric and burn things and cause a fire, which is not something I need at this time of the morning. Or ever, really. Okay, where did I just throw that ruler? Haha. Alright. So this is the last set of folds. Smooth it down. Take off this top piece. So this is just going to tack it in place until we've done the next bit. So again, square it up, crease it, push it, and then we can just chop off the excess. Now that there, I think, was my halfway point. So I should be able to get 2. Alright, so what I want to do is I want to make sure that this is going to go over that hole. So I've chopped it so it goes over the top hole but doesn't pop out the back. And then I'm just going to trim off these little corners here so that they're not going to pop out of the side. Like that. Okay, so pop that aside, and now we're going to take our strap and grab some double-sided tape. All right, peel the tape backing off, and then we're just going to line this up. Now, you can also glue these, but that I think was quicker than glue in this particular instance, and I'm going to stitch it anyway. So, because I don't want to see back stitching on this, I'm actually not going to start in the corner like I normally do. I'm just going to trim that so it's even. That was just like the tiniest slither, but it was annoying me. Okay, so I'm going to start kind of a couple of stitches down from the top. And again, you're going to notice that I didn't backstitch. We're just going to sew the whole way around. Down, twist. Down, twist. Now I'm going to hold these threads. Actually, I'm going to snip them off. Trim them off. And then I'm going to make sure that I stitch 2 holes past and then 1 hole back. And I don't know about you, but that's a very minimally noticed back stitching right there. Trim that off. Gonna melt that down because it's just a tiny extra bit. Beautiful. You can't, from here, like I know that it's there and I'm looking for it, but it's not very noticeable in the scheme of everything. All right, so now I want to punch my holes. So if you want it, if you don't want it within your top seam allowance, I'm just going to hold this where I want it to sit, maybe even add a clip, and then punch the hole. Actually, the clip's not going to work out for me. That's cool. I'm just going to have to hold it. So I'm going to hold it and then hole punch it. And then I'm going to hold this and hole punch the other hole so that everything is going to line up with the holes that it needs to match up to. That one was a little bit crooked, but that's okay. It's going to be hidden by the other thing, so don't stress about that. Okay. Now I need to put my snaps in. We are changing dies a lot today, by the way. So that one's for the bottom. So that's for this one. This one's for the top. Ooh, stop running away. Okay. So this one's going to go in here like this. You can pick which side you want your top to be. I always like my top stitching to end up on top. Then I'm just going to pop this in and squish it down. So that incorrect hole I made you cannot see. Then while I've got this in, I'm going to take the other one And because this is double-sided tape, I can actually just peel that off to get access to this hole. And then I can just put it back on because it's double-sided tape. So I'm going to hold the tape, hold the card slots out of the way, pop this under, and put the other side on. So I'm putting the female on the body and then the male one on the snap tab. See? And then I always click it together to make sure it's going to fit because sometimes they don't line up. Okay. So that's them done and them done. They can all just live in there, that's fine. And so now I need to put a rivet in this top section. Ugh. So here's my rivet one. Again, you could just change it out. Grab some rivets. Now if you've got some decorative rivets, now's a really good time to be using those. I have run out. So what I want to do is I've put this through the holes, but it hasn't caught the card slot thing because I didn't punch the hole for the card slots. So I'm just going to take my snips and kind of poke them through so that that will now catch that and attach to the rivet. So everything's connected. And then I can put the back of my rivet on, so my cap, squish it, and then squish that down. So that side's done. Move that out of my way, move that over. I'm getting a little bit messy here. We also don't need this anymore because that side's done, so I can just pop that aside, put them away. And now we are up to our main section. So the idea is, I actually possibly need to just re-iron this, but what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pause it and I'm just going to spray the back of both of these with some self-adhering adhesive spray. So mine's like a Sally's Quick Grip brand, and then I'm going to make sure that these are folded out and glue that so that the right sides are out on both sides. So I'm just going to hit pause and go and do that now with me so that you can see. So this is the brand of glue that I'm using. You don't have to use this brand, but this is just the one that I like. So I'm going, this is just a sheet of baking paper. You can see it's a little bit brown. That's because it's my ironing sheet of baking paper. You really want to make sure that these are down. Although you could probably close them and then glue them down. Another very good point. So you've got to give this a good shake. I did most of that off camera. And then you don't want to make it saturated. That's excessive. But you definitely want to make sure that there's enough glue that everything's going to stick. See? Look at that. And then we're going to put, so I'm going to move that because it's sticky everywhere, and just lay this over the hole. Now because I glued both sides are like sticky and tacky, which makes this placing a lot easier to do. Then you just want to give that a couple of minutes to dry. You don't want to stitch it straight away because it might adhere. If you've put too much glue on, this side will stick to the back and then you won't have a cool section. You just have like a weird zipper that goes to nowhere. So now that that's done, so you don't want to see it from this side, and then you want the pretty side like this. This side doesn't really get seen, but it's still good to do it. So let's move back and stitch it aside. So, same deal again. Light spritzes of glue is best. You don't want to drown it. So now that this side's finished, I knew there's a reason I do it in this order. We're going to glue this over the top of all of that, because that's what you're going to see when you open it up. So you probably want to try and center your pattern like I have. So when we open the zip, this is the bit that you're going to see. So if you're going to fussy cut any of them, fussy cut this one. So I've given the glue a little bit of time to dry, so I can't feel any wetness now that I'm touching it. I also cut a piece of zip. So this is why I always tell you to keep your small bits of zip, because that is going to fit perfectly in there. So we're going to take our zipper and split it open. Put it on each side, like that. And then slot it into the card slot. Now, I have done this a little bit backwards. You can actually, in fact, this might still be wet enough to do. You can actually put your zipper in between the two pieces. I actually might get away with this. I can always just spritz this back piece with another bit of glue, because as you can tell, it wasn't quite dry. So I could have just stuck it on because the edges would have been sewn into the edge, but I don't even want to see the zip. So zipper pointing upwards, I'm going to lay that and try and center it over the hole. So you can do that from this side. Like that. So that's just double-sided taped down. And now I need to put a little bit more glue onto here and stitch it down again, because it's just not, I think I let it dry a little bit. Like, it is still tacky. Oh, I might get away with it actually. And I've got a little bit of zipper tape popping out the top. I don't want that there, so I'm going to trim that off. And I'm using the back of my scissors to cut the zipper teeth, because yet again, I've misplaced my zipper scissors. All right, so that is actually still tacky enough that that's going to stay. Yay! So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch around my zipper, because if you don't, it won't stay in, obviously. So I'm going to do what I did before with my zipper panel, and I'm going to start a little bit away from the corner, and I'm not going to backstitch. I am, however, when I get close to the zipper, going to unzip it, needle down and pivot. One more stitch there, and then pivot. Again, I'm getting close to the zipper. Zip it back up so it's out of the way. I am also going to trim off these tails so that I don't stitch them in and make a mess. Needle down, pivot. So you want to make sure that at these ends you are stitching over the zipper tape. So then we're going to go through, we're going to go 2 holes past where we started and then 1 hole back. And then trim the tails, and if they need to, give them a melt. So zipper is now in. We're getting close to the end already, guys. So now what I want to do is I want to come along and line up the edges and clip them together. Now I'm actually thinking I want to put this side up because it's got the most amount of hardware that's potentially going to distort my sewing. So I'm going to take lots of clips and put them pretty close together so that nothing's going to move while I do this final top stitch. So I'm actually going to come along and do both the long sides of the coffin shape. And I'm trying to line this up pretty perfectly. And the reason I haven't done the bottom is I'm going to show you. Hold on. From the back, see here? I want to trim that off before I top stitch because this side's of the top and I won't notice, which means I'm going to veer off and potentially miss the back. And we don't want to do that. So I'm going to take my bunning scissors. For anyone in America that doesn't know, Bunnings is a hardware store. These are technically scissors to take cuttings from trees. That's what they're sold as, and they were $4, and they are amazingly sharp for their price. Okay, so then I'm going to come along and clip the bottom now that it's even. And then I'm going to come and clip the top. It's only the tiniest discrepancy, but I'm still going to fix it. So that, again, on this side, see how there's just that little bit? Actually, I can actually hold it so that it doesn't have it there, which is even better. If you were going to make a lot of these, I would actually recommend getting like a die. So it's like a big metal thing that you just put a board over and hammer and it'll cut the shape out for you, because then it'll be precise. I don't know where you get them made. I would first off try Etsy. They would be awesome. So a lot of leatherworking have cutting dies. That would be great for these because you get precision every time. Okay, so that looks like a lot of clips. It is a lot of clips, but it's worth it, I promise. So again, start wherever you want. I'm going to start down here, but not in the corner. I'm going to do that same thing I've been doing where I'm going to start there because that's where it's going to sit. And I forgot to leave enough tail. That's annoying. Happens every video. Not deliberately. I'm not doing this by choice, I promise. Okay, tail's behind. Now I'm going to come and I'm going to manually make sure I go through that first hole that I made. Needle down pivot. Because this is top stitching, you want to go nice and slowly. Oops. 4 AM is no excuse for bad top stitching because you could always come back and do it another day. One more stitch. I'm going to manually place that one to make sure it's nicely in that corner. Now, if you don't have a rivet set or rivets in general, you could skip that. You just have to make sure that this top bit is perfectly flush with the top of the Claudia or whatever size you're doing. Okay, so I'm up to the last bit. So before I continue, I'm going to trim off those tails so that they don't get all, you know, messy. And then I'm going to go 2 holes past and then back 1 hole to lock that in. Trim that off. Melt that down. And from there, technically, you could say done. Super cute. So when we zip it down, we see a skull face. I'm going to take it one step further though, because that's who I am. And I'm going to put a 6mm eyelet in. So I've already put the first lot of dies that I need. So when I bought the 6mm die, it also comes with a 6mm hole cutter. So you just want to think about where you want to put your thing. So this one I put it on the side, but I'm thinking this that I'm going to put it up here at the top. So this is literally just a hole cutter. So I'm going to make sure that I'm not obstructing any of the card slots. So I'm going to put it right there. So I'm going to stand up and put some pressure on this. And by pressure, I mean my entire body weight. And it cuts the hole out perfectly. And then you can just kind of poke it through here. So this goes all the way through so it doesn't get overly clogged and they'll just eventually all fall out. And then I can change this set out. I keep them in the bags that they come in so I can tell which one's the cutter and which one's the top, because this little bit on both of them look very similar. And I wouldn't want to forget and mess it up. So anyway, so with this one, this is springy. I'll put this one in. Now, here's where you want to decide which side you want the bulk of your metal to be. Now, I'm going to put it on this side because this side's already quite busy. So you put the eyelet in. Some eyelets come with a back, so if they do, you slot the back on, but these ones don't because they're small. And then you're just going to, again, I'm going to squish it down and you'll kind of feel it go. Oh, voila. And then I can take, this is just like a key ring, and put the key ring through there, and now you can attach it to anything you like. Oh, and I just pulled the eyelet out, so that didn't work. Let's try that again. That was weird. It's a new one for me. The eyelet came completely out. That's right. I've got like 100 more. Place it in. And squish it down. We're going to try that again. See if this one wants to do the same thing, shall we? No, that one's better. There we go. So now you can attach it. You could attach, like, if you want to add some more hardware, you could also put one of those little like lobster claw swivel clasp type deals, and then you could hang it from your keys or your bag or, you know, whatever. So I hope that was informative. You could also go along if you wanted to and use some edge paint on the edge of this. I did do that on this one. So this one's, I've done the black edge paint because that's when I only had black. Since then a bunch more colors have come, so I could probably mix up something close to a purple and then just put some edge coat on. You'd want to make sure that they're very, very even, and quite often people you can put like an edge filler, which is like a glue in first, and then you paint the paint color over the top. But there we go. That one's all done. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you all next time.